We will call this meeting to order with a flag salute at 6:07 p.m. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Would anybody like to make amendments to the agenda this evening?
Out of this time.
All right. Oh, hearing none, we'll go ahead and approve the agenda and move straight to our consent agenda. Does anybody,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
there's second, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? All right, Laura, could you do a roll call vote?
Russ,
Yes.
Jamie, yes, sorry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0.
All right, oh, was the surplus under the consent? Yes, sorry. Patron comments. Do we have any? I don't see any slips, but did you get any online? Okay. So we'll move directly into reports and we'll start with the superintendent K-12 for principal report.
So the big one is we received our audit results back from transportation. One of the things that we will be working on is ensuring that our paperwork is streamlined, that we have it all one spot and it's organized. So Mr. Albers and I met with WLA today to talk about expectations, to talk about how we can make things more readily available for both entities, because WLA drivers are technically considered ALSI employees. One of the things that we learned is all paperwork actually on the employees has to be an ALSI. So we're working on getting that back. One of the big pieces for both of us is that our policies need to be updated, which we did in December. We shared that with WLA as well. And so Mr. Albers and I talked with them about the student conduct on the bus, since they're WLA students, should really go through them. The actual driver policies, what's happening with the bus and things like that really need to be our policies. And so I'm going to send them that so we can start getting those streamlined. Food service, we're still working on the fresh fruits and vegetable grant. We are able to spend 10% of the $15,000 on actual equipment. So Mr. Taylor's working with Mrs. Smallwood to get more equipment for our kitchen. I believe we're doing more serving tables and with storage. It's actually a really great program. Our kids have tried. With this program, you cannot do just regular fruits and vegetables. You have to do kind of out of the box. So we've done rainbow carrots, watermelon radishes. I think this week we're doing purple and white asparagus. We're going to do passion fruit next week, which is not like my favorite thing I've ever eaten. They did jicama, pomegranate. So we're really trying to add these into what the kids are tasting. And then our goal is to put some of this actually on the salad bar. We got preliminary grant budgets released. Dawn and I have been actually working on the budget for preparing for April. And one of the things that you guys are going to see is that there is a decrease in our budgets. It's approximately 30% for SIA and 20% for HSS. And Dawn has worked very closely with ODE to make sure we're getting those numbers. And the one thing that I really want everybody to kind of understand is that we are now pretty much being funded where we should have been funded. It's not spectacular because we're having to take some stuff out of those grants and we're not going to have as much money available, but we are being funded where we should actually be funded. Early literacy, we're at the floor amount. So we already are kind of the same. And then CSI, TSI, we're decreased as well. Remember, CSI, TSI is the school improvement plan. And then I am working with the ESD because the new integrated guidance application is actually due at the end of April. So I'm working with the ESD and taking our data from the strategic plan and from other data sources that we gave to refine those budgets. One of the things that I did hear quite a bit in the strategic planning and in the survey is that our students and community and parents want more than just sports as activities. They want to have us to really do a whole breadth of activities. So as we build that, that's what we're looking at. And then I just put on the iReady results for the district, the difference between, the fall and winter. You can see there is an increase, in students who are on track. One of the things I will tell you, I don't know if you guys have been reading the news a lot about the governor, her accountability, but there is a push for accountability in the legislature and for the governor. And one of the big pushes is how do you, that they want to know that what we're spending money on is working. Well, the push for now us that as educators, we're pushing back to say, okay, but we need a system then that shows that we're working. So one of actually the big thoughts is that the state will require every single school district to do some sort of interim assessment like Ready, like MAPS, and then the school district will be required to give that information to the state to ensure accountability on top of OSAS. And so that's kind of where we're hanging in the balance with a few of those things. And then integrated application, like I said, it's open starting March 15th. I've been working with the ESD to do it. It's not as in-depth as the prior application, but Alex and I have still spent quite a few bits of time getting it together. My goal is to have it submitted by April 15th. And then go from there. So that's taken up some of my month as well. So
Can I ask a question?
please.
So I like looking at the numbers
Uh-huh.
and, it's not pretty, but it's nice to see improvement just from fall to winter.
Mhm.
And then you were talking about the accountability for the state. And when are they talking about requiring specific numbers of increases or just they want to just see and then they'll decide based on
So what I've been hearing, and this is the governor's proposal, I don't know how it will go all the way through, but what we've been hearing is that they will compare like districts to each other and say, here's where, based on like districts, this is what we're thinking. And if after so many years, if you are not hitting those benchmarks, the state will come in and mandate some coaching. And then after a couple years of that, if you're still not hitting benchmarks, then the state will come in and actually say, this is how you need to spend your money. This is what I've heard. I am not
Yeah, it
sure.
has
So I heard it was a 4-year, years 1 through 3, you have some
Coaching.
coaching, year 4 is state control.
Yeah. And it's one of those two where I think, our conversation back is yes, but you also then need to help us with things like we need more support in attendance. You can't, I read a great article that people said they'll give you money for reading literacy, but you can hire all the reading teachers you want. If you don't have kids in the seats, then what's the purpose of the reading? Perhaps you need to hire an attendance coach. And so these are types of things we're actually telling the state too. One of the pushes, and I'm going to tell you, I'm a huge push for this. I also think that if you want accountability, you shouldn't have an opt-out law, that every kid should have to take it. I don't think that will go through. I think that's why they're going to go to the interim, but I also think you need multiple data points. So it's going to be an interesting legislative session, especially around education. As I said, and there was an article in the Oregonian, I don't know if you all saw that, but the governor pretty much said, we believe 11.4 is where we're going to be. I don't think we're going to go any higher because she said, we're not getting more money until we see more growth. And so now the conversation is what does that look like? Because one of the concerns I think that I have, especially with ODE, is do they have the capacity to come in and help coach us at a level that we need to be coached at? Or am I going to get somebody who's been a reading teacher for 5 years telling me how to run systems in a school? So it's going to be a very interesting legislation session around this subject.
Any other questions? All right, principal report.
Hi, it's me again. Just students of the months, we got that going. That's going really well. I'm very proud of the kids. They're really working really hard, and I think the staff is doing well. We did our 90% attendance award for semester 1. We had over 100 students who earned that award. So if you see the kids with their shirts around, please give them kudos. We have a garden. Our kindergarten and first grader are actually working with an educational leader from Davis Family Farms, and they're growing stuff. It's quite funny. I want to congratulate Paisley Jacobson. CPI, our local electric co-op, they sponsor one student throughout their co-op area, a junior or sophomore, to go to DC. A lot of electrical co-ops, actually all of the electrical co-ops in the state of Oregon do that. And Paisley was chosen to represent CPI in their area to be their representative to go to DC in June. So I'm very excited for her. We had 3 applicants. All 3 got interviews. They don't give interviews just to anybody. All 3 of them got interviews. And we're really excited. I hope that this really starts our students knowing that they can do the same thing as other schools can. It's not just because we're ALSI that they have the opportunities and they can be as successful as other school districts. So I'm very excited for Paisley. We had students go to the career fairs. They loved it. And Miss Sessman and Miss Wilson actually took them. And our hope is now through this career fair, this was put on by Corvallis High School or Corvallis School District. And one of the things they all came back and they said, did you know in Corvallis you have to go, this is a graduation requirement? They make all of their career class students go. So this is one of the things that we're looking at next year with our teachers to make it part of a class grade. But one of the things that we got out of the career fair is Miss Sesson and Miss Wilson said they actually had people coming up behind them and said, good, we're here. We're glad Elsie's here. Here's our cards. We want to come out and talk to your kids. There was an organization that they actually provide the materials to build sheds, and then they have the high school shop classes build sheds, and then they give them to people who need them for storage or tiny homes. And so we're hoping to get some people out here so we can start those types of programs. And then I gave you iReady results for the brick and mortar for the elementary school for math and reading, and then for the middle school, high school for the math and reading. And I tried to not make them so many pages, so sorry. But one of the things I did with each teacher who taught, so K through 6, and then the ELA teacher for 7 through 12, and the math teachers, we actually sat down and looked over their data. And we talked about, what does your data tell you? Where are we moving towards? How do you think you might need to change some teaching strategies to help with your kids? What can I do? What can Mr. Harris do to help you support you in that endeavor? And so, data is one of those that I love it, but it doesn't really mean anything unless you talk about it. And so we talked about, some teachers are like, well, I might need some little bit more support during this time when I do small groups. So I was able to look at the schedule and help teachers with that. So, or, I don't really have a very good curriculum for this, or I don't really know what to do in the curriculum. So then we're able to support them by getting them some training, or I can go in and watch, or Mr. Harris can go in and watch. So every teacher was met with me, and we literally talked about what their data said and what we can do to either adjust or to continue on the track that they were on. So.
All right. Next we have our attendance, regular attendees and enrollment.
I'm going to tell you, this sickness is hitting us hard. It is a 90% or better. So there are kids in there who are like 88%, but we had classes that were decimated some days, and so we're really working on that. But we are also really working on when are you sick enough to come to school, to stay home, and when can you come to school? And, as I'm looking through, I can see a trend that we are trending down. And so we are sending attendance letter homes. I still think, there still is some education on our part to do when you can come to school or not. But we're still working on it.
Does that letter include some of that explanation and guidance?
Not some of the sick or not. What it does is it does include this, but I've been having teachers, like elementary teachers, say, like if they're sniffling, they can still come to school. If they're puking, please don't send them, kind of pieces. So
I think there was some stuff that went out like during COVID. Obviously, you put out when to and when not to. So maybe that would be a good refresher. COVID's over. Here's what we can do now.
Yeah.
That's a very good idea. And the Oregon Health Department, they've got little flyers that I could definitely be including.
Might be
in
helpful.
some of those,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually that is a good point because I have spoken to people who are like, I can't send my kid to school because I gave him Tylenol last night. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not a rule anymore.
Once
Yeah.
they tried to tell me, I've got a 99-degree fever. That's not a fever. Bye-bye.
Well, and they've even said, yeah, I mean, they're still, so yeah, we'll look at those pieces, but I think also some of it too is, oh, it's spring break or we're getting close. And so we're really still working on that. I think we want to continue to keep our attendance. I don't think we need to continue to keep our attendance moving forward in the positive manner. Like I said, we can't teach them to read if they're not here. So we got to get them here.
All right, Ms. Shunk for Learn at Home Oregon. Is she online? I can't. Struggling to see
There we
tonight.
go. Yeah, just having trouble with my mouse. Hey, everyone. So the principal report for Learn at Home, we had an exceptionally wonderful assembly last month where we honored the heroes in our students' lives. And most of them, they picked their family members, which was, of course, their moms and dads. And we had some cousins and aunts and uncles, and there were other students who picked friends that they've made through Learn at Home and they get to see in real life. But this was very special for all of us. Each classroom created a poem that, was from the heart of the students talking about, what they notice about their heroes. And it was really fun. The big deal was that we invited the heroes to participate in the live assembly with us. And so that was very special for everybody. So they were able to hear the recognition and the appreciation from the kiddos in their lives. So we were really happy to do that. We did that along with our Student of the Month and character trait of daring, attendance awards and whatnot. So yes. And I have to say, yeah, the sickness, even online for our online students and me as well, it has really taken a toll. I was surprised because I usually can work right through it. And there were days where I was like, I can't even think straight. So anyways, even in the online world, we were struggling with that. I've included our iReady comparative data from the first diagnostic to our second diagnostic. And in reading, we're really focusing in on closing the gap with our foundational skills and getting the confidence being built for independent reading and enjoyment of reading and all of that. And then in math, we are working very hard. And we've included now in our second through fifth grade, our second through fifth graders now have access to Fluency Flight, which is through iReady. It's a beta program of theirs where it's gamifying fact fluency. And that is a huge, I could talk about that all night, but you don't want me to. It's such a huge piece to prepare for larger math and the confidence to attend to larger math problems. So students are starting to work on that. And let's see. I know that we have Mr. Cedarlin there that will go in further, but I wanted to show a few different examples at the bottom of our transparent and supportive school home communication that we're very proud of. So please check that out at the bottom. This is something that we're building our community to be very strong, very connected with quick communication. And I'm looking forward to Mr. Cedarlin's longer presentation after this. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Shunk.
Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Harris, athletics and activities.
I know can you hear me?
Yes,
Why is my video not working? Okay. All right.
we can see you.
We can see you too.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Straighten right up then. Good evening, all you lovely people. It's good to see everybody. So just wanted to update on Elsie project. We did meet on the 6th, got our committee together, worked again on putting together all of our classroom expectations, not only classroom, but like what are the expectations, the hallway, the library, arrival, dismissal, just going to really put all of that together to really get our students in some good routines from classroom to classroom in our hallways, just so that everybody knows what all of our expectations are. And we put together a Google Doc so that all the teachers can take all of their expectations from their individual classrooms. We can put them all together, and then we can just kind of come up with what we think is going to be the best for our school and put that all together. So it was a good meeting. And part of the PBIS philosophy is a sort of a reward piece to it. And so we've talked about possibly putting together again a school store of some sort. We're not sure if it's going to be mobile cart or what, but just want to put it out there for anyone that's if you're at a store and you think, oh, for $1 I can get 10 of these, and those would be great for elementary kids to buy from our store, whatever, that if you want to make donations.
Not bouncy balls.
I was just thinking that.
Bags of bouncy balls are perfect. Those go great. Water balloons, those kinds of things. So but they will get like Blue Pride tickets. So when we start that, they already do Blue Pride tickets in their classrooms, but it'll become more of a where a bus driver will be able to give a Blue Pride ticket, a principal, a custodian, anybody that comes in will be able, if a board member comes in and says, man, that was just a really amazing thing you did there, here I want to give you, then those are the things that the kids can earn, and then they get to reward themselves with something from the store. So we're just looking forward to really putting that stuff together. On there, it says our next meeting will be on Friday, but on the 21st. But when I put that date down, then I didn't realize until everybody pointed it out to me at the meeting that was the day before spring break. So I didn't blame them for not wanting to work on that. So we'll put another date together for that and let everybody know. And again, if you are interested in coming to a meeting and just kind of seeing what the process is about or whatever, then, just shoot me an email and I'll definitely send out an invite to you. And we would enjoy to have your company. Basketball season came to an end. Unfortunately, it didn't end exactly the way we wanted it, but I think for the most part, our students should be really proud of the accomplishments this year. They, young group of boys got to go play against a rather well-experienced, top-rated team in the state, and performed well against them. And so we're just really excited for our program to continue to grow as far as basketball. We also, side note, football had their helmet sizings today. So we what was it? I think 17 high school varsity players, and then I think we had another 10 or 11 in middle school. So we got a bunch of them that are wanting to come out and play next year. So that's good. Of course, that's got some rising 8th graders for next year, but still, it looks like a good number and a good group to be out there. Track practice started last week. If you have a student that's running track in high school, you should have gotten an email or remind, or both, from Mr. Roberts today, and he'll be using that as a way to communicate. And right now we're just trying to finalize a few things for the middle school. I was just on the phone before reaching out to a couple of athletic directors this evening in this area over here to see if we could get middle school into a couple more. So it looks like might have a couple leads on that. So that's good. Ricky's been Miss Hendricks, she's been working hard to get those put together. So we're looking for, we got about 20 middle school students, 5 through 8, that are going to run track for us. And I assume probably between now and first meet, we'll probably have a few more. But right now we've got 20 of them that are wanting to run track for middle school. So that's really good. So I'm looking forward to that success this year as well. And finally, after school enrichment classes. If you haven't heard about these, we have the after school enrichment classes. Students can do culinary, clay art, choir. I think there's dance. So I don't know what kind of dance it is. I think it's like swing dancing or line dancing maybe or something like that. But anyway, we've had a lot of kids that have signed up for that and starting to see some really like cool projects coming out. And the great thing about the like the culinary and the clay is that they get to work a whole week on projects instead of day to day to day. And so they're able to actually produce some really cool stuff. So that's been pretty exciting. And those numbers are going up as well. So I don't have an exact number, but I know we've got quite a few kids that are staying after school and participating in that. So, and lastly, March 19th, I put it on the calendar today, and I believe Nicole may have put it on Facebook this evening, but we'll have our awards night for our winter sports on March 19th. So we invite everybody to come out and celebrate our varsity and middle school players for their winter efforts. So if you have any questions about that, you can email me directly or ask me now.
Question? Thank you, Mr. Harris.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Appreciate it.
All right, financial reports, Mr. Staley. I'm ready to applaud you. It was already on. It's on. You've had
You
it
did it
on,
the first time.
but then you turned it off.
There it is. I hate this thing.
We know.
I'm just gonna get him a mic that he wears on his.
It's the love paint. Oh, other way.
I knew. Hopefully you went through it with detail, but I want to go over some of the good news is the formula. We came out with an adjustment, which I was not aware. And they did an adjustment on the 22-23 year, and that's giving the remote elementary additional ADM. That didn't affect our revenue for last year because we're in a declining, but it's going to affect this year by $500,000, which is a plus. And I want to go over that formula real quick with you so you can see the changes. It's on page 4. You'll see the remote elementary there about 6 lines down, and that's an additional 38.82 kids for 23-24. However, we're a declining district, so it didn't have any impact on last year because the previous year our ADMW was 613, and so now 420. It doesn't affect. They take the higher of the 2 years. However, it does affect this year because that 420 is higher than our current year, and so that's where we get an additional 59 kids, both on IEPs and on the remote. And then I gave you what our latest ODE just came out on February 21st is that represents about 600,000, but we lost experience because we have newer teachers compared statewide. And so we lost 55,000 there. So it's a net gain of 554,000, which is excellent because then that ADM is going to help us the next year too, that remote. And I think in my summary, it's because of the population of the school right now. You fall into that category. If you're so many miles away from another school and you're under 200 and some kids, then you get that calculation. So that's the plus news. Other than that, the revenues are roughly the same. We're still making interest, which is good. During the budget process, I'm not going to show that kind of interest because you never know what's going to happen with the market. As you can see what's happening with the stock market right now. So you don't know. What we're estimating is around a 7 million carryover, which we were planning. But you have to understand we're using $1 million some to maintain our programs after we hit the bottom. And so now how does the board plan to use these dollars? And that will be during the budget process. Another thing I want to point out is on page 7, during our budget process last year, we put $700,000 in there to be transferred over to the capital projects. It's still sitting there. It's up to the board to make the decision how, if they want to move that dollars over there or not for projects or the food service program or construction or however. So that's between the board and Krista, how they want to do that, but we need to do that before the end of the fiscal year. Because the appropriations are in this year.
That not the fund that like our fire alarm stuff is coming out of?
No, that's a different one.
I'll get there.
Okay.
Remember last year when we got the additional money? We did a resolution to our budget and I added the $700,000.
It's unappropriated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we have this in here right now as appropriations. It's up to the board how they want it, if they want to move that. Also, you'll see that food service, we're only using 58,000 of that right now based on where our income is versus our expenses compared to what we budgeted. So that's another good plus. These all add up to where we come at the end of the year. On page 8 are our grants. I don't need to go over those. I think they're in detail. We got the special ed grant, but still we're going, that only covers
The stipend grant, you mean?
the stipend. It only covers the salary, not the fixed costs. So that will have to come from the general fund in a transfer. And when I get that actual figure, I'll come with a resolution to move those dollars out of the general fund into that grant. Okay. And there's a resolution in the packet because we received some additional dollars for Title III, and then I need to adjust some appropriations around for the SIA. So I'm within compliance. Any questions on the special revenues? Food service, I keep throwing this at you every month so you know what's happening. You'll see the participation and what percent is of the students are eating and who's not eating, and everybody's free. And so we're still around 67% for breakfast and 65% for lunch. I wish it was 100%, but it would help the program a lot. Right now, we're projecting to lose $58,000. Going to cost $58,000 from the general fund to cover that.
Can we all like institute like a push in for breakfast to maybe increase some participation?
We do breakfast after the bell. One of the reasons we don't do a push in is because we are having some issues with mice.
Oh,
So we're trying to keep everything up
Right.
here.
okay.
But my staff is really pushing them to go and eat. And so we are working that. I think I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of it is the 7 through 12 students for the breakfast and the lunch piece. But yeah,
We couldn't push into their first period classes?
they actually go to first period and then they have 10 minutes to go and get breakfast again.
And again, same format, showing you what the cost per meal is. That's $1.70 we're losing per meal. Okay. And the breakdown between payroll costs and food costs and all that. 13 is what you referred to, Jamie, is the capital projects where we're spending the fire alarm on the windows and that. So there is approximately there'll be approximately, I'm on the debt service. That's what I was looking at, that number. That's the debt service on there. So that,
It's like, oh, that one doesn't look quite right.
I
to
know
me.
it doesn't in my mind, this keen and cold, but anyway, there's 30,000. I'll be using that during the budget process to keep the rate flat. As we discussed during the budget process, you want to keep the rate flat. You don't want it to go up and down on debt. So we use the beginning cash as that balancing. Page 14 is your capital projects. There's 85,000 left in that can be still used for other projects that's available. And that's been used for the fire alarm, and that's for the windows. Okay. Then the bond, there's 54,000 left on that. And I think we're pretty well complete on everything, and we've reconciled that with Chris and Nancy. So that's where we're at there.
There's that 54,000 left there. That's after paying for the upgrade to the server HVAC? Or is that
We've
money?
encumbered that, so
Okay,
that's
yeah.
available
Okay.
dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Seismic. We're always a month behind in collecting the dollars, the way they reimburse us, and Brent's been doing that. So that's the balance of unencumbered yet, and we're going through all the bids and that right now. Nancy and Chris are. And then unemployment is, there's $141,000 in that. And I'm going to be working with Krista on that. What do we budget next year? I don't know what the unemployment is going to be during the summer. That's the unknown. What I did set up with Krista's approval is a PERS reserve. Now, we had monies in a liability account that's been sitting there. And I've reconciled PERS monthly. So instead of having it there, I put it in a PERS reserve because it was a credit, you understand. So you move it over here as a revenue. And roughly our PERS goes up annually, it's about 30-some thousand. So this would cover an increase for 1 year. But how do we, as you know, PERS is going to keep going up and up and up. So rather than putting money more into the unemployment reserve, one of my thoughts and recommendations to Krista is to put more money in, reduce the unemployment that we're charging staff and put more money in the PERS reserve so that you're covering increases in the future. So we're not hit by that big increase, but that's just a thought.
Should we wait till we see what the figures do after a summer in
For,
that reserve?
for unemployment?
Yeah.
We could, but I mean, I'll tell you, 8 years ago, they said, don't worry, PERS will go down after 2024.
Now,
Now it's 2034. So
you
you
saw
know-
the rates that it's going to go up.
it's what, 29.3.
It's going to go up to close to 40, the max there.
Mhm.
What I showed that one time.
Yeah.
When will we get to Jamie's question? When will you be able to estimate prior to the budget cycle, or will it be after the budget cycle?
I have to do it during the budget cycle.
Yeah.
I have to put the appropriations in there. It doesn't mean that I transfer the dollars in there. I have to have the appropriations in there to give us the authority. We can put the appropriations in there and then discuss it afterwards. And then
Can we-
do it,
Make note just to have like both options, if we could look at both.
because they're just appropriations
And kind of
and have
look at-
revenue, but
Yeah.
that doesn't
Pros and
mean,
cons.
that doesn't mean that we transferred in there.
Right.
So,
The other thing to throw out there is some push in the legislature that since the legislature said we have to pay for unemployment, that they should be paying for some of it.
yeah,
There's a thought.
Potential.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Offset.
so
there is a thought. Who knows?
any questions on the financial statements?
Can I request professional input and recommendations to review for that 700,000? What you as professionals would love to see done with
Yeah.
those funds?
Do
And
you
then we
want
can-
during the budget process, or like when would you like that?
Well, before we have to make the decision on what to do with it. So
Yeah.
I would love your professional input to compare to what we have and my own personal thoughts and ideas.
Why don't you let Dawn and I talk a little bit and we can talk, and
Yeah,
just look at needs. I mean, I think
and your projects that you have.
we have projects. I think we have a lot of building stuff, and with the seismic, this
Mhm.
is a great opportunity for us to use some of that money to upgrade things we would never be able to upgrade.
Yeah.
So
I would just like to hear your opinions to compare them to mine.
Okay.
And just kind of see.
Well, you just want to, yeah. Krista and I'll discuss.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Why are the checks and bills not on this agenda?
Not via email.
Don't we normally approve them?
not the checks. I sent them out in an email last week.
Didn't we approve them last meeting?
We haven't approved them for a while now.
But we do on the next one, so the next month ends reconciliation and financial review. Dawn's gonna go over
I
that.
was going to go over this.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yes.
As you know, during our audit, there was a insignificant deficiency. Well, deficiency, and this seems like an oxymoron to me, but anyway, worked with the auditors, trying to get everything removed, all those comments and how to address them. And so the board is more involved and they know what's going on and having information in front of them, because as you know, you saw what's happened to Silverton, you saw what's happened to Newburgh, and you've seen what's happened to a lot of districts. And I developed this and passed it by the auditors, and they said, yeah, it looked good. So I went through it and went through all the steps that we do.
Sorry, to Russ's question, that this is this for the deficiency that had to do with the communication between the board and
Right,
business manager? Does that make sense? Russ?
I'm listening.
That was the deficiency, because we already dealt with the major one was the I-9s. And this is one of the others. And a lot of times, working with districts or wherever I go in, you just see the financial statements. You do not know, are the banks reconciled? Are the liabilities paid? Have the vouchers been paid? Are there outstanding debts there? And that's where district, you come in and they're a mess, because none of that's been reconciled. And that's one of the things that I want to make sure before I go into the sunset, that there is a process, and that whoever does those things signs off on it, and the business manager checks and the superintendent checks. So one of the things on here, because the ESD did the payroll before, but I'm doing the payroll right now. And Roxy checks all my work. So with that said, she's verifying that all those things are done, so that everything's been reconciled, everything's been paid. And I haven't really got too many complaints on checks, have I? I haven't heard any for the last 7 months. So that's usually a good indication there. You receive all the checks and you receive all the vouchers. Brent sends those through Krista, and that's what you're referring to, Russ. You have those for your review. And you can ask questions on those, which has happened, and we respond on them because we want to keep you informed.
Well, I guess the question is, I pretty much remember accepting the bills, like voting that we approved the bills and checks.
Not since I've been here.
Really? Oh. Did we have a lengthy discussion on it? Is that what I
We had a
remember?
discussion about it.
So when there's a question on bills and checks, how do we address that in a public forum? Because I believe a board member requested that to be on the agenda tonight.
It is. We put it on, if you look under new business, it was a discussion about financials and what that would look like. And so this is something we were
Tonight?
gonna talk about at that time. But bills and checks are not approved, because you could approve them, but then if you don't approve them, you would have to ask for all of them back, including our.
Well, if a check has an ethical violation in it, I think we need to discuss it as a public meeting on the board.
Unfortunately, Russ, I would,
Unfortunately, you're
well,
not the
listen,
head
I'm
of the
gonna tell
board.
you,
I'm
I'm
not
in a
addressing
deci-
you. I'm addressing the board.
no, and I understand.
I'm addressing the
Okay.
board.
I'm gonna point out order really quick on just like respectful communication, because that's not how we talk to people.
I'm addressing the board, not Krista.
So can you ask your question again?
Yes. If a board is not allowed to approve the checks and bills after they've been paid, how do we address a concern on whether that payment was appropriate or not?
Well, I think you sent an email or you requested information on it, so I guess.
Well, we had a couple emails come across the last week, but it's not on the agenda, so that's my concern. There was no resolution in the email, but there were emails.
Well, this is the first district that ever has approved checks in my lifetime. If you do that, I was at Canby, I've been at Gladstone, I've been at 12 different districts. and nobody has ever approved the checks.
Well, it's not about approving them before they're written. It's about approving the bills and checks after they're
They have
paid.
never approved the bills that.
Okay, so the
were-
question wasn't to approve
years.
them. The question was, if we receive them and we have a concern, how is it addressed in a public format?
So I will take that one and I will reach out to Vince Adams on that. Because unfortunately, often that has to do with the operational decisions of the district. And so it's really questioning and.
Well, not if it violates the law.
And then we would need to bring in our legal counsel if we had questions on that, but I will happily email.
Well, there's a board member missing tonight for this very reason. So I have the same concerns. So I'll state it in this public meeting that I have a concern about the bills paid last month, that they were unethical and illegal, and I would like it addressed as soon as possible. I've emailed Vince myself.
So what do you want me to do?
You, nothing. I want the board to explain to me how we address this concern as publicly elected officials when we believe funds have been misappropriated.
I'll take that.
Well, then you.
To the tune of $4,500 and $9,000 in
I
legal
get it
fees.
With you, and I'm not talking for Krista, you're talking about me because I'm.
No, I'm not talking about you.
Yes, you are.
You didn't
because
write
I
the
approved
check.
them. I approve them. I am approving the requisition. I am approving the checks and I'm.
So you
processed.
approved
So
a check for business liability
Wait a
insurance.
second,
Hold on, hold on. We're not gonna-
I'm gonna.
I'm not
either
saying any names.
pause, it doesn't
I'm just
matter.
asking what was
No,
emailed to
but
me.
but part of our process and part of the procedures that I have brought here that you have reviewed is that they go through a requisition process and that, so.
Oregon statute has a conflict of interest clause. I believe it was violated, and as a school board
So
member
you're saying I
elected by the
violated it?
community, someone violated
Well,
it.
you're saying I did.
Well, you or whoever authorized the payment violated
I
it.
sign them. I mean, I approve them.
And I ultimately approve them as well. And this is what I'm gonna say, because I've spoken to our lawyers as well. Is that every public official knows their rules and their laws about the ethics. If there is an ethics violation, everybody is welcome to turn in an ethics violation on whomever.
Oh,
And that's what our lawyer said as well.
okay. That's the question at hand, I guess.
And that would go to like OHEC.
That would go through the Oregon ethics, yes. But when everybody gets their money or however they do it, every public employee is expected to know what the ethics laws are. And they are responsible to ensure that they follow them. And so if there's a complaint, you can go to OEC and file that complaint.
I think there's a little bit being swept under the carpet here.
Then we can have a conversation, Russ. I'm more than welcome. I'm more than happy to meet with you about that as well. To discuss anything that you have concerns about.
Well, I don't know that it needs to be a private meeting. I believe this is public money and it's a public meeting.
So, and I'm gonna go back to.
You are a board member,
I'm going.
just like I am.
I'm going back to the fact that I'm going to email Vince because you have a question on how that's handled in a public meeting. I'm going to ask that question.
We could have done this research the last week when these emails were coming.
I
back
did
and
do
forth.
research on that.
Researchers.
Yes, but there was no email resolution sent out to me prior to this meeting.
There's no resolution yet because research is being done. The
That's
questions are
not
being
what I've
addressed.
been told.
Have you,
Have you read the email?
Yeah,
Because I see research happening, because I asked additional questions and I'm getting additional input about research that's happening.
okay. Well, I think in the future, that money paid to businesses outside of employees should be considered by the board before they're paid, for the record. It's like asking for a bid to
I
do
would
work
ask you
at the
a
school.
question. I would like you to find what policy is being violated.
It's an
I'd love to
Oregon
read that.
statute for a conflict of interest for a school employee to
Again,
receive
okay,
money.
That's been addressed. If there's a violation, a complaint can be made, but I'm curious what one of our board policies is being violated. I would like to know that for my own research.
It's a board policy or is it a government policy? We all have to fill out ethics reports every year on ourselves. I can't get paid to coach a team as a school board member because I'm on the school board. That's a conflict of interest. If I run a business in town, the school board can't pay me to do work for the school unless I go through a bidding process and compete with other bidders and win that bid in a public forum. Therefore, any expense I incur as a business owner can't be paid by the school either because it's conflict of interest. Correct?
Have to do my research.
I think that would be a question for the district's legal counsel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it needs to be on the agenda for the next board meeting.
Can we get off this subject and
Yes.
go to the rest of it? Are you
John, can
done?
you walk us through the rest of this?
I'm glad.
I don't know why you feel targeted. This
I
wasn't
feel
targeting you.
targeted.
Why?
Oh, because.
The
I-
district spent
I mean-
almost $10,000.
Don is an employee of Krista and he's giving a report.
I didn't
that his-
address Don. I asked where the bills and checks approval were.
And what I'm saying is our business manager is giving us a report right now as an employee of the district on a deficiency that was found. This is what he's trying to present to us right now is addressing the deficiency that was found.
Anyway, to continue. I have all the checks and balances on there, so you know that they've been completed and that we signed off on them. So that you have this transparency, so that you know that we've got everything balanced on there. Trying to address it for the auditors and for you. So is there any questions on any of the items other than the checks?
My only question and potential concern is the typed signatures versus real signatures. And-
We're trying to figure that out.
It's a work in progress.
Okay. That,
Because
that would be my only concern.
Because it was
they
sent
are
to various people at different times, you know.
financially related.
And I guess we could all print it off and scan it again and send it.
What- Or there's like Adobe where you request signatures
And that
it's
was
stamped.
another thing I was looking into, so I tried to do it via.
That's my only concern. I have
No, I
Yeah.
totally
problem,
understand.
but just for,
Work
anybody
in
can stand up and
process, but if you
say,
see anything else that you would like on here, I would appreciate it. And then at least that you reviewed it, that it's in the minutes so that the auditors see that you did review it.
would it be appropriate maybe to put this document within our consent agenda?
That's what we were going to talk about
Yeah.
in the
Later on.
financial, yep.
Nothing more.
Thank you. Construction report. Mr. and Mrs. Giggy. Doing our best.
So, yay, we actually heard back from the county this week and we got our permit for the seismic program. So we are doing the final procurement steps this week. Today, we actually got received 7 bids for the asbestos abatement. So that was a terrific response on that. And we're going through and making sure that everything that's through. CB numbers and such and references. And then this Friday, Todd will be coming through, doing their walkthrough with their subs that are going to bid on the actual work. So we're still on schedule for starting in the locker rooms in May. And then as soon as Krista releases the rest of the gym in June when school is out, then we'll do the rest of the project. And simultaneously, the fire alarm system will be constructed. We'll be coordinating the two together. We're still working through some of the budget items. Chris is going to give you more details about that.
Yeah, just to give you a little detail there. So the initial abatement results that Nancy referred to, the low bids actually came in just a little bit less than what was budgeted. So that's great news. We would like to be that fortunate with the rest of it. We know it's a challenging project. So as she said, the subcontractors are coming in for pre-bid meetings this Friday. Bids are due April 2nd. And then Todd is going to take and consolidate all of those numbers and then put that together so that at the next board meeting in April, we'll be able to bring you the results of those bids and share where we are versus our budget.
It's good. So, and then the fire alarm, electrical.
Oh, yeah. Want me to go ahead and
Yeah,
cover that?
yeah.
Yeah, so you've got several budget summaries that are in this report. One was the first one was the bond project, and Don already referred to that remaining owner's contingency that's in there. Basically, that's done. The last of it was, I think somebody mentioned this little HVAC project, maybe Soren, and that's been complete. And so that's just wrapping up. That's going to disappear off of our reports here. The gym seismic, just showing you some updates. Again, we're just waiting. We're holding. Even though we've got that bid result for the abatement, we're going to sit on that. We're not going to write contracts until we get all the costs in for construction, and then we'll know where we stand on that. And then for fire alarm replacement, if you've looked at that report, so we had some surprises this last month. We had some initial walkthroughs with the fire alarm contractor and the electrical contractor. And there was talk about a rough budget for this. And it was something where, they were estimating about 20,000 for that. And then as it turns out, as they really got into the details with the fire alarm contractor, we had several walkthroughs. And they came back and those numbers are a lot higher. And it's all documented. It's basically the volume of conduit that's going to be needed for this. It's not even really power. There's just it's basically about 3,000 feet of conduit that has to be distributed all over the school and all of these different buildings. And so anyway, they've given us that number, and that's kind of a ouch in terms of the budget. It takes the original budget over by about $50,000. And so that's something we just need to talk about how we want to handle that. So that really, I think, is everything in our report. Was there any other questions?
I just, that increase in the cost of the fire alarm is kind of shocking that could be that big of an oversight in the original. But I mean, I guess they were just, it was a guesstimate.
I think the fire alarm contractor, when they came in and gave the proposal, and the nice thing is we've been able to hold them to their number. So there have been some surprises for them. And one little thing there too is they're originally planning on running overhead to the play shed. Turns out the play shed has not had fire alarm, which is pretty awful. But one of the options is to go ahead and run that underground to the play shed rather than running it across to that little modular classroom and then from there to the play shed, because that modular eventually is going to go away. And the price would probably be double in the future if you wanted to pull that out and underground it at that time. So there's some of that some of that overrun is for that. It's about 5,000. But the rest of it there really is just the surprising when they really started to crawl through all of the little nooks and crannies. Surprising amount of additional content that's going to be needed for this. There isn't a design on this, and that's part of the challenge too. Is there wasn't an electrical engineer who was involved that was brought in to detail that, and that would be another option. Frankly, after looking at it, I would be shocked if it was less. If that was something where we took that out of the fire alarm contractor's work and decided to go out and separate that. I think we're going to end up spending probably $10,000 on an electrical design. And then we're going to take probably 3 months for that design and bid process. And then we'd see where we are then. So that's kind of the challenge we're facing right now with that, because of that surprise.
I was just gonna say, you shared that you had significant bids in the abatement. Have we had the same luck in the electrical bidding to select the lowest bidder?
Oh, for the electrical, this wasn't a bid process. It was
Okay.
basically working with the fire alarm contractor
Okay.
for the electrical. So. And so that's why I say that is an option, is we could say, hey, that's a surprise. Oops, we could take that out. Let's go find an electrical engineer, have them dig in, give us hard documents that we can take out, bid, and see where the results come out. Ultimately, And it's just a guesstimate. My read on it is probably by the time we pay for an engineer and then go through the bid process, it probably end up costing us a little. But that's something we can discuss.
I think I've asked a couple of times. That contingency money that's sitting there, at the end of the bond project. What types of things in our capital improvements or seismic grant or this project that those funds would be appropriately used for? And I don't know that I've ever heard a clear resolution on what that looks like. That extra 50, do you say 56, 54?
In the bond.
Yes,
It's,
the items that can,
it's not committed, well, it can be used for anything to deal with the building.
Mhm.
I mean, there's always in.
I mean, I would think electrical-
But they always have an open-ended one
Mhm.
that's kind of generic that you can spend it on anything that relates to the facilities. It's not maintenance items, but
But any of the projects that we're doing.
Yeah.
makes sense that this would fall in line with our electrical upgrade. I mean,
Uh,
we had to have the electrical done to support our systems. That's one of our systems. So,
I think that's what we've seen too with other school districts. When you get to the end, there's all,
Hypothetically.
hopefully, there's leftover money.
Yeah.
And so as long as we understand, as long as it's spent on capital
okay,
projects, that it's acceptable.
okay,
But that's your decision.
right. And like I said, I knew I'd asked what was appropriate and what wasn't, and at what point do we make that decision and appropriation?
I think you can do it at any time.
Okay,
Because the appropriations are in the budget. It's up to how you guys want to spend
Okay.
it.
Do you have feedback for the board, Krista, on timeline, or maybe you guys have timeline? I guess I'm trying to understand, when do we need to be able to make that decision to move things to having fire alarms working out of the school is gonna be important for staff and student safety.
Ultimately, Krista was able to plan to turn over the locker rooms in mid-May. Everything originally was planned to start mid-June after school is out. So the locker room work can start in there in mid-May. Ultimately, we'd like to get all of the contracts written. Fire alarm already is, they're already going. So that additional could be, we could take a look at just that piece for the electrical and what that is, if the board needed more time or something else for that decision. The rest of the work isn't gonna start until mid-June, and then would have to during the summer break.
is there any time constraints as far as the bond timeline that we need to allocate those remaining funds? No?
No, I think the
Okay.
rule is you have to spend 85% within a certain period of time.
Yeah,
and then
Which
they
we've
do
already
that.
met.
You basically have 5 years to spend all of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
And when did the bond go through? Was it 22? So we have to spend it by next year. So we have to spend the 54 by next year.
so if we wanted to make sure that we allocated that 55 to the 53 deficiency on the electrical of the fire alarm, we would want to do that before June, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Or by May?
I'd say we'd want to do by May, if not April, just so we can get it.
You need to give the contractors time to get materials and
Mhm.
things like that. So ideally, I'd say by mid-May.
So do we need to add that as a future agenda item?
Dawn, do you think we need to talk about it, the May meeting?
Well, we need to have a vote to move it, right? We need us
A
to,
resolution?
you need to do, we
I
need a
don't know if you
resolution.
need a resolution because the appropriations, but I guess it would probably be correct if you did a resolution, say spend the dollars there, so there's a record of it.
I don't know that we're gonna necessarily get any new information unless there's something else you'd like to see, so perhaps it could be added to the April board.
Yeah.
I don't think
Can I
there's any
ask-
adding any.
Can I ask a accounting question? When would they expend those dollars? Because I'm thinking about the budget, because our budget ends on June 30th, so then I would, if you're gonna spend it next year, I'd have to put that in the budget. Or if you spend it this year, I wouldn't have to put it in that budget because you have the appropriations this year.
Yeah, there'll be, really work starting in May. There's already some fire alarm invoices
They're
that
gonna
we
have
have.
expenses.
Yeah, But the majority of it really is gonna be
Cause you didn't
spent.
spend that money first.
What we generally see is, once a project is done, then if there are excess funds, then they're just moved to the next project. And so, which is why we were able to do the little HVA server and those things. So it's not unheard of to just say, hey, what we have left at the bond is all going to the next project, which is the seismic. And God willing, there's gonna be some surprises with the seismic as well, but, hopefully we can keep everything within that budget, and God willing, we have funds left over from the seismic budget, and we get the next seismic grant that we'll hear about in May. Funds can be moved on to that, and you can just keep that domino effect until you've done the project that you can with the funds that are available.
I was just thinking it was a pretty clean wash.
We spend that before June 30th.
And I don't think there's any problem.
If you're
Yeah.
talking about the fire alarm, yeah, we're not gonna spend, the majority of it's gonna be spent after June 30th.
So then I'll just put it, the
Yeah.
appropriations in there.
Okay.
Is the gym still going to be closed most of the summer, all the summer?
Yeah, it really will. They're actually going to have to lay down floor protection on there,
Right,
and they
right.
will have some overhead work.
But it's like a 2-3 month project.
Their goal is they've got to finish it by the end of August.
Okay.
So it'll be about 2.5
And they're
months.
starting like right after school's out, right?
Right
Like
after
we're done
that.
Friday, they're starting Monday.
Yeah.
Are you looking for like a place for like basketball practice? Because I think the play shed will be open. Okay.
It's
Maybe.
gonna be tough on staff for move out. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tight time frame.
Yeah.
Other questions?
After making my first trip into the locker rooms, I think the upgrades are indeed necessary.
What color would you like though?
Just blue and gray.
Very good.
Sounds great. Thank you guys so much.
Did you make the flooring for the PYAC?
Did I what?
Did you make the flooring down there?
Mm,
All right, educational spotlight, Adam Setterland. Good evening.
Hi. Do I pull the cable from over there so you can see it and I sit here, or do you want me? to
I
stand
actually
over
think,
there?
hey, Nathan, I think if we could do it on Zoom so everybody could
Yeah.
see it, is that possible?
No, because I'm running off of my laptop, running this side off the laptop.
Okay.
Can you join the Zoom and share?
Yep. Probably, yeah. If you sign up the Zoom there, we can run it off of that, and you can share.
I'll email it.
Would you like me to stand over there where the cable is, or shall I pull the cable here? What do you prefer? You guys want
I don't
to
have a
break, we'll
preference.
set up.
Yeah, let's go ahead and call a recess at 7:15 PM for a recess, technology recess.
for 5-10.
Okay, we are back in session at 7:27 with Mr. Sutherland from Learn at Home Oregon. Did I pronounce that correctly?
No, but
No. Great.
the Learn at Home Oregon part, yeah, this, Cedarland.
Cedarland, thank you.
Don't worry. Shall I begin?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Hi, my name is Adam Cedarland. I am here basically from a personal, a desire I have to sort of engage outside of the classroom. I've been 25 years a teacher and 15 years as a parent of 2, and I've not once engaged with the school board in my life, not for 1 minute. So I find that embarrassing. And so I'm doing something about that a little bit. So I'm not sure what to do or how to do something outside of my teaching practice or my parenting. So I'm throwing darts and seeing what can I do. I'm especially, like I said, had a soft spot for here where my parents were when I was born in Alsea, and I grew up on the Siletz, so I like small riverside communities. I have in Oregon, I just have a real soft spot for that. So I want to do something besides leave my classroom and call it a day. I don't know what. So, but it came up in the strategic planning meeting where Mr. Separich, you were there, and we had they brought a lot of people were there, but they had a moment where the man said that there was a need in communication, a need to communicate more and better, have higher quality communication. And as a teacher for 25 years, 20 years ago, that came up in our first faculty meeting. Exactly that, in Virginia where I taught high school, and in Massachusetts it came up, and it came up when I taught in Mexico, and it came up when I taught in Germany. And it doesn't matter when or where I've taught or what I've taught. I've been a language teacher most of my life, and now I teach second grade, and it doesn't matter. It's the same question every year, every single year. How can we better communicate with our families? And what do we mean by that? We usually mean, how can we communicate to such a level that we engage our families, that they participate with us in this process, and that we participate with them in their raising their children, right? Because we're being trusted with their kids all day long. And so, and the solutions have always been, really good tries, but we're just never there. We're just never there. And I feel like now, and Mr. Seprich came in this is why I mentioned you in the strategic meeting. He said, with his own children, he has in their school, there's almost zero communication between his school and his family. Did I get that right? Between the teachers and you, and I mean, their part, just engaging you. We're trying to engage you. And my kids go to Philomath, both of them, and we are also a part of, we use Synergy. I use Parent View on the parent side of Synergy. I have email, all the teachers have email. We communicate, but it's heavy, it's burdensome. Synergy is a big machine, and email has discursive requirements where I have to say dear maybe, or I have to say hello something, and then I make my engagement, and then I sign out with that. And it's a little burdensome, or a little awkward, a little clumsy, a little bit too heavy and long, especially for families who are working and moving, and they want to be involved, but it's hard. It takes time, and also the idea of knowing what's going on at school. What'd you do today? Of course, the answer is nothing, or maybe a couple of things if you're lucky. So you want to talk to the teacher, but that's really hard. Teachers are hard to get a hold of, or you're hard to get a hold of. And I think that we've come to a moment where there are lots of tools now to overcome some of that. Now, I've been using this one that you can see here. This isn't the only one. It's called Class Dojo. Learn at Home Oregon uses this. Class Dojo. These are the kids. And what it is a place where I can communicate with families in the way that everyone's communicating now through, they use direct message or instant messages, or they use WhatsApp or not TikTok, but
Well, some of them probably do.
Telegram. Yeah, just using whatever quick messaging service that they're using. That way you can eliminate the discourse requirements of dear such and such. It's a chat. So if, for example, if someone writes you an email and just says the business at hand, it feels rude a little bit, if not sort of blunt. It's not, we need our communication to be friendly and informative and engaging, and hopefully we can build a relationship and communicate back and forth, and we can all be helping our kids this way. So I think email is not the right place to be, but in the instant quick messaging area where we can write, Jamie's sick today. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope she feels better. Boom, in 3 seconds, that parent got to tell me personally what's happening around their house, and I got to give them some empathy or sympathy, and our relationship just got 3 seconds. In 3 seconds, just got better. Through the email, it's clunky, it's hard, and it's also it goes through another party. That's just one tiny, tiny, tiny little moment. And I was a classroom teacher for most of my life. I always had a computer nearby, and recently I had a phone. I don't like either of them, but I'm finding that this is something that's really been lovely. It's been working nicely to communicate with parents. So let me show you what it is. And there's several types of these. This is just one type. I'm not a product pusher. I don't care about this product, but I really appreciate what they're doing. So all of the parents are here. I have 100% family connections. You can see over here, 100% of the families are there. And I chat with the parents individually or as a group. So I can write to them, dearest kids or dearest parents, and I can give them information if I want. I can also, with individual parents, very quickly and very easily, you can see, talk to them Like, what are they doing? What do they need to do? I can send them a resource really very quickly. I can send them, oh, Brielle's working on, she's having struggles with counting money. Here's a PDF, or here's a resource, or if you would please dump a jar of coins on the table today, something like that. And the kids and parents and I are all together on this, in this place, and they can make videos. They can ask me questions, and it's something that takes me less than 20 minutes per day to do with a lot of parents. And so this what I'm pushing here is the format of quick communication, light communication, friendly communication that will hopefully engage the parents in the education of our kids, so that we're really actually doing the it takes a village business, and sort of leaving the we don't really work together. And this has been working better than anything I've ever done in any country, any place, any time. This has just been, so this is just one child and her mom, and some of it's personal, like just to let you know, she's feeling bad today, or she's having something today, or if she needs information, or wants to show up something she made, because we built relationships, and when we build relationships, I can ask for things, and what I can ask for is, could you please have her look at this over the weekend? Or very specifically, we're learning to read. No, we need to learn, this particular blend is causing a problem, or this particular vowel, maybe combination is causing some trouble. So here's a resource, and here's something you could do specifically, concretely, parent homework, right to that kid, right to that parent. And it gets there right now. Parents, and not only am I able to communicate this way, the parents then have it in mind all the time that, oh, my kid is doing this, or my kid is doing that. And so here in the store, this pertains to this, or here in the kitchen, that pertains. I mean, I can sort of be part of the child's life. And then a lovely addition to this is the portfolios. The kids can have that metacognitive element. They do homework, whether it's in a book or on paper, or make a video, or they make an audio, or they draw a picture and write on it, or they draw a picture and talk about it, or draw a picture and make a video, whatever they want to do, and talk about the thing that they've learned, and or talk about how they think about it. So I can see their processes. I can catch where their thinking is going, if they're explaining how they came up with some sort of, like when we talk about flexibility in math, how they came to this solution. What did they do? What was their path? I can follow that path. And not only can I follow that path, their parents can follow. So every time they turn in, like I say, let's do this page. We worked on it. Now go show and tell this page in Dojo, make a 1-minute video. They take it out. The thing I just did, they talk about it, they think about it. And just talking about it and thinking about it after they do it is that metacognitive element where they think about and engage with what they've already done, which is really good for them. And the parents have access to all of this. This is a portfolio. So if I go to, I don't know, any child, I go to the portfolio, the parent has, like you can see what we're working on. The parent has access to all of this. I make, the child turns this in. They did something I asked them to do quickly. The child turns it in, shows it off, talks about it. And then I get to give immediate feedback. Good job. Fantastic, some positive feedback specifically about what they did, and I press approve, and it goes to their parents, and it goes to them, and I have it. So the parents know exactly, not just like, oh, we're counting money, but we're counting dimes. I mean, they know exactly what's going on, and they can see how their kids are working and what their kids are doing. And that goes for reading too. The kids read decodables, their finger follows the words, and I can watch them. Their parents can watch them. Their parents are sitting next to them, helping them make it. They practice for the video, so they read it 3 or 4 times rather than just once. So I think the tools that are light and easy and quick and friendly, friendly, have helped me already get closer to this idea of not just more communication, but better communication that leads to engagement. So I just wanted to bring that particular practice to the board's attention, that we might be able to use modern or recent technologies, even though if you're a Luddite like I am, you prefer not to. They're quite good, And they're appropriate for everyone. The parents have it on their phone and they write to me immediately, put a heart on their kids' work, say something about their kids' work, and it works with their schedules and their lifestyles much better and easier. And so I just wanted to figure out how I could contribute, and I think this might be a way. So
Mr. Sutherland, you taught in classroom for a lot of years.
20.
Yeah, and now online. So I look at this as like a bridge, right? You have to use this in a sense for online, because you don't have your kids in front of you.
Yeah.
How do you think a traditional teacher in a classroom who gets on their cell phone when they're done teaching for that 20 minutes to check their social media or answer their emails or
Yeah.
whatever is going to adapt? I mean, what would be your hope about adaptation?
Yeah, I thought about that question in the car. I was wondering, as a teacher in the classroom, or as my kids' teachers in the classroom over at Philomath, I would prefer they not take out their phones. In fact, some of them are telling all of the kids, don't take out your phone. So I wouldn't ask them to do that. And in fact, during the day, this is not built for online teachers or online schools. This is built for brick and mortar.
Okay.
But we use it. It's quite easy to use it. But what I would say is there's a laptop in your classroom or a desktop computer in your classroom, and you don't use it so much during class, but in passing time. It can be in the moment, or it can be between classes, after classes, and before classes. I use it mostly for the 20 minutes after school anyway. During the day, I do get a message or two. I can choose to ignore them or not, but parents understand I'm in class.
Right.
But if I'm not in class, or if it's a moment where, the kids are doing something, I can answer that very quickly. I can say, okay, thank you. We've had a moment. We've had a communication moment. So would I see it in my classroom as a teacher? I would see it on my desktop or on my laptop. And I would see me opening that laptop and working there. I might just symbolically, I might not take out my phone.
Right.
Okay. I guess, have I
Right.
answered?
Yes. I mean, I guess, I think all the time about how we have such a small school. We have so many classes that are pretty small. I mean, one of my children is in the biggest class in the school, but it's like 23,
Okay.
which is relatively small compared to Philomath or Corvallis. And I'm often just dismayed at the lack of communication, right? Like you would think if you had 12 or 13 kids in your class, you would be just open with all of their families, right? But I think you're right. You've covered a couple major problems. One is parents don't even have the teacher's email addresses. I mean, everyone can say, well, it's this at else, but unless you get an email, you typically don't look for that email. Emails are pretty difficult to write sometimes, especially when you're feeling conflicted about something, because not a lot of people know how to put it in the right words. I look at this as something that might take some months or a school year to really take hold. But I guess from your perspective, I want to ask you this, you don't have to answer it.
Yeah.
On the greater magnitude scale of how you feel about this, is it more fulfillment in your life teaching? Is it more like you feel it's comprehensive? Or is it that connecting that you really value? Because this is what Krista will ultimately have to share with the teachers is what are they going to perceive with this modality?
Yeah, that's good. The first thing I'd like to talk about is that email you're talking about.
Right.
You can find I do this. I look for my kids' math teacher's email, and I go to Synergy and I'll write to them there, or I'll find their email at Philomath.edu and I'll write to them, and I will not get a response half the time.
Right.
And I will get a response the other half the time, 2 days, 3 days later, and most of the time it isn't. I need to respond, but I don't want to respond now because it takes 2 or 3 days. We need to have a conversation, but my conferences are coming later, so I need something like this to get through that. Whatever it is, you need more pencils. I don't know, but in an email, if you can imagine, John, does he need more pencils? 2 days later, yes. I mean, it's
Right.
clunky.
Correct.
It's clunky. Now, as a teacher, I've had a lot of different kinds of experiences with parents, thousands of different experiences, seems like it, but I've never been able to have a fluid, quick a relationship built with the parents in such a way that we could have a quick little conversation that got through what we needed. In Mexico, the community sort of treats the teachers as, oh, you're the source of knowledge and you're the source of, all kind, and that's uncomfortable and it's hard to talk with that sort of discourse. But once you get, if you're able to talk to the parents on an individual level, it was very engaging and very easy. But it's hard to get there. In Germany, it was very different. The parents were, I guess, very, very educated about education. Very educated about education and wanted to know about, methodologies and philosophies of education and what have you, and what, and curriculum and things like that. And so engaging with them through email and conferences is also difficult, because how can we really do this without time? So I'm finding, as to answer your question about personal fulfillment, how will it feel? How does it feel as a teacher? It feels like I have relationships with most of these people whose names you see. I've met with them in conferences. We have conferences. We see each other's faces. And when I meet with them in conferences, there's a familiarity already there. And we've already chatted a bunch of times.
Right. It's not brand new in that conference where
Yeah.
you're saying,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
Johnny has a problem with reading,
Yeah.
because you've already addressed that for the first month and a half
Yeah.
or 2
And
months.
not only that, we've addressed where and what
Okay.
exactly, and what you can do, because I think most parents want to do something, but they're not sure what. And so they remember how they were taught and kind of try to do that. But this is helping me build the relationships with the parents in a way that they're kind of used to now. These parents are digital natives. I'm not, but they are. So they grew up with this. So they're pretty agile and communicative. And I don't think they're feeling all that impersonal as they're doing it, because I feel like we do have a relationship, and when we talk in person and occasionally on the phone, we've already done that.
Right. And it probably takes your time back in those situations, right? You don't have to spend 30 minutes in a conference because you've already built that pathway
Yeah.
to just follow up and move on.
And the conference doesn't feel as conferences feel more useful.
Right.
We're not introducing and showing they're just more useful. We've already been through a lot of this. Now where are we going is what the conference is usually about, not what problems we've had. We've already covered all of that. It's sort of, I like the idea that we get to look like, where are we going? What's our vision? What's our plan? So
The resources that you're able to provide, I can't tell you how many times I have been endlessly searching the internet for something. Like, am I showing them truly the right thing that the teacher's been trying to get across? Because I don't necessarily know, and trying to find a tool, whereas in that quick second you can give them a tool and make them feel so much more set up for success to support their students out.
yeah, and I think it eases a lot of anxiety about what's going on in their lives.
Yeah,
What do they do?
Are you smarter than a fifth grader is for real?
I get a handwritten note every day from my kid's teacher, but then it gets home and I read it and I have questions. So I ask my first grader about it, and then he gives me his perspective. And then sometimes I'm like, I really would like to get the teacher's perspective on this detail. But by the time I write back or type an email or something, it's like the next day. And I go, sure would be nice to just.
I love that. Actually, in Germany, they did this, the Gelbe Mäppchen, where the teacher would send with the kid every day, and there would be a note, and you'd write back. And I kind of like that. It was sort of love letter feeling.
Yeah, just
But
trying
at
to
the
do
same time,
something.
It's not
Yeah,
conversational.
in the moment when the kid still remembers what happened, and
Yeah.
it would be nice to
Oh,
get
yeah.
everyone's perspective on it right then before he goes
Yeah.
to bed and wakes up the next day and has forgotten all about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wait till he's 13. They don't even bring the note home. So then you're like,
So I was thinking about the triangulation also, like the relationship between the parent and the teacher, the relationship between the teacher and the student, and you could see the relationship between the parent and the student. But there's that like complete circle of that sees the struggles, but the benefits and the support in it too, and that it's truly a support system in their success in school.
And the one that you mentioned that for me is the biggest surprise probably in all of this is the parent-student
Mhm.
connection. Like we're actually helping, I feel it sometimes at least, that we're helping those two understand what's going on in this little one's life anyway.
Yeah.
No, and
It's the,
I get to be a part of that. I don't think I was before much.
this reminds me of a program we used at the very beginning of COVID. Mr. Roberts, are you familiar with the program that Miss Kopp had used?
Yeah.
Well, the one
Was it
she-
JoJo?
I don't know, but it
I
was
mean, it
very,
looks really
Yeah.
familiar.
yeah.
This is used around, in my previous school, I had a lot of teachers use
Miss
this.
Kopp had something that the kids uploaded their,
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was Seesaw. That's the one.
I was going to say seesaw.
Yeah, it resembles that very much, and I personally loved that. It kept the online school still human, interaction.
Yeah, and the portfolio is really nice. I mean, that the parents can see where we're going. They can see the path from where it was and where it's going, and they can see that there's a logic to it.
Growth.
Yeah, it's not a random situation.
What are the costs of these kind of things? You don't
That's what
know,
the
I'm
board
sure.
knows.
That's
Yeah.
the recommendation piece that we might, well, so I saw that it's, maybe even requesting a formal review or a demonstration.
Well,
then-
I think one of the things is we would have to take it to the teachers and see who would be interested in doing it. Different pieces like that. So, I mean,
Well,
I
is
know they
that,
could use
like-
it on Learn at Home and that might be a good.
Is
place
that
to
their
start.
choice? Like, I mean.
Pardon? Well, it would depend on cost, right?
Hmm.
I've seen this used at a high school level for some teachers.
I like the
I-
pilot program. Oh, I'm so
Mhm.
sorry.
That's okay. I think Remind has some similar functions. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what Remind has done with basic school communication, in my opinion.
Mhm.
It's taken a step in this direction.
Mhm.
I do like the pilot program because I think when we do that, the staff gets to talk as peers on their successes
Mhm.
and where they've learned areas of improvement also.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of features on this that I don't use, but I use what I need, what I want. It's all I have.
Thank you.
Any
Thank you.
questions? Well, I appreciate it. Well, we appreciate the presentation and
Thank you for-
answering our questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pull that back so it just doesn't fall. Thank you. So up next, we have our safety committee report. Laura, you're still giving that, sorry.
Yeah, I really don't have anything additional to say. It's there in the minute, so just every month, just keep trying to plug away and issues that come up with staff.
Okay, any questions?
I actually do have a question. How often does PACE require that you do a checklist?
Is it quarterly?
Yeah, we have to do quarterly checklists.
How many items are on that?
I mean, what?
How many items are on that? A lot?
It's like 4 pages long.
Okay, that's,
So it's
just,
pretty thorough. We do the playground inside.
I'm just curious, not
Yeah.
if there's any sort of.
Thank you, Laura. We're moving into new business. There actually is an addition. If the board could agree in consensus, we can put item 5E on, and that is the approval of a budget committee member. Is there any
We would need the application on, we don't have it.
Oh, we don't have the application yet.
Well, we do have the application, it's not here, we could do it in April.
Oh, never mind. I scratched that note.
Yeah, we could do that in April.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. All right. Learn at Home Oregon presentation, adding a grade for 25-26 school year.
I'm gonna let Ms. Shunk do this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Hey, by the way, great job, Adam. Okay, so we're really excited. Our entire staff has talked about this, and we would like to propose adding grade 6 to our elementary structure. And we do this without adding another teacher. We are adjusting grade assignments. And actually, should I share my screen?
No, we all have it.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So this is really exciting. This came about because we have a lot of our 5th grade families that are reaching out, very concerned that they have to go and find another school, and they love this school. We've even had families request if they could keep their kid, retain their kid in 5th grade, just so that they could stay in the school. But the data for that kiddo obviously did not support that. And so anyhow, this discussion came up, and I've worked with Dawn and Krista to look at numbers for next year and what our break even is. And this would give us a potential for adding in an additional, adding in quite a additional amount of students and retaining students. And I also have a lot of families that call from like 3rd and 4th grade. They have current 3rd and 4th grade students, and they're looking for a K-6 model. They're looking to be able to stay in a school, for a number of years before having to switch to another school. So we are really excited about proposing this idea. Any questions? Will I go through? Okay.
When I first looked at this, my first question was, is every teacher okay with this? Because it looks like Mr. Cedarland's going to take on another class, but sounds like you discussed it with everybody and everybody's on board.
Yeah.
So
Chris's first thing, make sure you talk with the teachers. So yeah, absolutely. Every teacher is very excited about this. So the biggest leap, you're right, is Mr. Cedarland. He will be shifting to a 5-6. He has, as he explained, past experience with older students, and he's looking forward to kind of a new set of students. The neat thing with the way our program works is that all of our teachers have at least one class a week with every single student in the school. So it's not necessarily brand new teachers, but with that, we have a lot of excitement surrounding Mr. Cedarland. I hear this a lot from families. And so I know putting him in that position will be it will be attractive piece for our students who are going into those grade levels. The other piece is that Miss Naylor, this alleviates Miss Naylor looping for 3 years with the same set of students. So she will have an entirely brand new set of students. She has done a great job being a split teacher for the last several years, and is looking forward to focusing in on one grade level. So she will be the only one. The other piece is that we will then be aligned completely with the LC brick and mortar teachers, and that collaboration piece, with curriculum and PLC and all of that will be exactly straight across, which I think is will be a fantastic addition. I'm trying to speed through all of this.
Well, so at this point for the board, if you would like to add a grade, you would need to do a motion. If you look at all that, you would need to do a motion to add to create Learn at Home from a K-5 to a K-6 school.
I'll make a motion to add a 6th grade to the Learn at Home Oregon charter, making it a K-6 model.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Russ, we'll start with you. Any discussion, questions?
I think it's great. I think, Heather, you probably agree that these numbers can only go up. What would be, I guess my only question is, at what number would we need to add a teacher, do you think, if it did grow in you know, the numbers of students enrolled.
So Krista and I spoke that we're going to cap, I think, at 100. Am I correct, Krista?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because in
and-
our charter, remember, we have to make sure we're below the in-person.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we don't
Okay.
become virtual charters.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I ask a question on that? Actually,
Mhm.
sorry, is it just number of students or is it like, since Learn at Home is K-6, do we have to focus on what our K-6 looks like?
It's number
just number of
Because
students.
we're considered LC charters. So
Okay.
my understanding, it's the number of students in the building versus the number.
Okay.
That's why we had to go
So
down.
our Learn at Home cannot exceed our brick and mortar total.
Total. That was my understanding, what the major issue was initially.
Okay.
Yeah, but Miss Shunk and I believe that we would cap it at 100. I think 100 would be a good space for us.
Yes.
Thank you for
Um,
asking. Appreciate it.
That was a great question. Yep.
Soren, any questions?
No, I really like the idea. I felt so guilty when we had to cut those grades a couple of years ago. So I'm really happy to be adding some back, particularly in case there's any families that have kids in that grade who are not currently learning home and were disappointed.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree with you with that sentiment from a few years ago. So it's exciting to be kind of turning the page and watching this online program, flourish and grow.
No, I'm just wanting to reiterate what Russ said, that capping it at 100 would not need to hire a new teacher.
We would have to look at numbers, like, for example, it would truly depend on, like, let's say, for example, we would get like 40 kindergartners, then we would talk about it.
Okay.
But like, if we only have, 21 fourth graders, then no. I just think we have to look, it depends on where that population would
Okay.
be and where our money, how much money it would be as well.
Okay.
So,
And I want to add too that doing this, if we kept it in the current model, our first grade class, I mean, yes, of course, I believe that more first graders will come in, but say we only retained that first grade class, that would leave the next year's second grade class at pretty low to start with, which doesn't make sense for the district. So this allows a balancing potential for all of the classes.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Sounds great.
Thank you for the information. Laura, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Jamie,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0.
Thank
You, Ms. Shunk.
Thank you all so very much for all of your support. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Okay, next is 5B financials.
So we wanted to review what Mr. Staley had done previously to go over exactly how with the audit, what we could do to address the significant or the I don't know what it's called, the deficiencies in deficiencies. So this would be one, like I said, that Mr. Staley has ran past our auditors to ensure that it would meet what they wanted us to meet. And you have with Nicole, correct, Darcy?
Yeah, right, and David.
So is this where my question comes into play? Would it be a good idea for us to acknowledge the receipt of that reconciliation
Totally.
and recognize and acknowledge that we received a copy of the checks and deposits?
Can I ask a question? Would we put that on, would we motion on that every month?
I think it would be a part of the consent agenda.
Okay, so then that is the consent agenda. We can pull it if there's questions.
If there's questions that need
But
to be addressed.
The information that was in the financial summary. So I understand, I want to paraphrase quickly. You'd like to see that form in the consent agenda to be approved every month.
I think that would be appropriate.
And we
Just acknowledging that we have seen it, we have received it, read it,
Yeah, I like the
had an opportunity to ask questions.
accept it.
Accept it, yeah.
Okay,
Not
and
necessarily
then
approve.
we will work on making sure it's just not typed. What was happening is that Laura would send it out and then one would sign it and then she'd send out the other one and that signature would like go away. So we'll work on it with Nathan.
Okay,
We were working on it.
okay.
Jane, do you want to make I do feel like we need to make a motion in that
Okay.
space, if there's a motion to be made.
I'm gonna go back to the title of that report just so I get it right.
I don't.
I
Under
think
the-
it
thought you were
right
fast.
under financials.
reconciliation financial review. Okay, I make a motion to add the month-end reconciliations and financial review report to our consent agenda each month.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. I feel like do you still want discussion or questions? Russ, any discussion or questions from you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Laura, can you do a roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Hey, did you see us all fly by the seat of our pants on that? There was no attachments, no. All right, resolution, modify special revenue appropriation. Dawn, are you able to walk us through that? Thank you.
I'm trying to get everything ready for the budget
Thank you.
and make sure the appropriations are in there, so everything looks correct. Number one, when we approved the resolution for the SIA, staff and various things went into different areas from instruction to support services, so I need to get the appropriations in the correct area. And that's what's doing that one. And then the amount that we adopted was more than we actually was less than what we actually got, and I got it to the exact amount. Title III is a new grant, and that's really already been spent for professional development. Carl Perkins, that's money that is through what county? Lynn? What county?
Lynn Benton, Lincoln.
Yeah, and these are dollars that used for it's federal dollars, and it's used for staff development too.
For Carl Perkins, yeah, it's
Yeah.
only for CTE, but they use it for equipment that's not supplanting. What's the other word supplant besides supplant?
Huh?
Supplement, not
Supplement,
supplanting.
yeah.
And we use it for professional development for
Yeah,
our
except
teacher.
going to a conference
Yep.
and various things like that. Then Krista already talked about the nutritional grant. And so this is adjusting those, and so I can change the financial systems and have that in the budget for the new appropriations.
Thank you. Is there a motion to consider?
I move to modify special revenue appropriations as per resolution 2506.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Laura? Lauren?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Oregon Government Ethics Commission, SEI, this is a reminder.
This
We-
is a
I was gonna
reminder.
say, we don't need to take an action on this.
Nope, you will be getting an email about it. This is a reminder that the business manager, the superintendent, and all the board members do have to file it. So we just want
I
you
thought it was
all.
biannual. It's annual, huh?
Yeah, and we believe you'll get the email on March 15th. So we want you to be on the lookout for it. This is your reminder.
There were questions that came up last year. I'm asking you specifically because I think there were some questions. But did you get those answered for last year? Perfect. I just want to make sure if we had any, that we had the resources to ask them quickly.
And so if you don't see it, this email by the end of March, please give Laura a call. Right, Laura? Okay.
Oh, she'll stay on top of you.
But you should get
I
it.
think I got 4 emails last year. I know, it was great. It's good to stay on top of me for things like that.
Yeah, so
Your login information, specifically like password. you
Just
have to
create-
Oh,
put
that's,
in
yeah,
in
it's,
that document.
yeah.
You have to ask them directly. I can't reset it. I found that out last year.
Yeah, from
You
me.
can't just create a new account every year?
Thanks,
Really drives them crazy.
Okay,
I'm slow to
all right.
conform.
No motion necessary. on
we just,
that
like I
one.
said, we just wanted you guys to remember.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, into old business. This is the AI policy
Yeah.
next step.
So I took this to the VASCA meeting and asked my fellow superintendents about what their districts were doing with AI policies. A lot of them said they're not doing anything right now. They're just doing it under, the teachers have to fall under FERPA, so they have to be super careful. And that teachers need to let students know if they're using AI, what the proper procedure is. So nobody in our region has, from Albany to Corvallis to Lincoln County, nobody has done this because they do say it is an ever changing. And so my next question to you all is, we have talked about this. Would you like me to work with OSBA, and it probably will be the next couple of months, to maybe see if this responsible use of technology would be something that we could implement? Or would we just like to kind of wait and see?
So I think isn't this the one from the,
This is Tiger to
Yeah.
Wallaton, yep.
and there are some pieces of this that I really like, and I would like to see some sort of
Mhm.
policy with at least a couple pieces from here.
Okay, could you and I meet about it then, and then we could bring it to the board, or no, you and I could meet about it, and then I could take it to OSBA to see what they think, and then we could bring it.
I mean, we discussed a little bit. I want to make sure it stays general enough where we don't paint ourselves into a corner, but there are
Yeah.
a couple pieces that I really.
Okay,
like
let's
having.
meet in the next month or so.
Well, and I think a lot of this is designed to adapt with, improved and changing technology. There are some, again, like Soren said, some very specifics, but we could definitely cut some of that stuff out, but I think why not pave the way?
Yeah, okay, so Soren, let's you and I meet in the next month, and then we can kind of look, bring it to the board, or I can actually take kind of maybe what you are thinking and take it to OSBA and see what they say, and then we could bring it to the board. Could we do it in May, though? It might take us a couple months to get stuff. Is that okay?
Next question.
Please.
Is the board desiring a policy or a procedure or both? Can I ask that question?
My personal opinion is I love this the way it is.
The combo of it?
Mhm.
I was thinking of that in the perspective of the teachers, like when we're modifying procedure for their classroom, like how do we get, I guess, buy-in is probably the best way, but making sure that we're not handicapping them or putting them in,
Well, and like the other thing I also think is we need to bring Mr. Robertson as the technology director to make sure that, he's like, we already have these systems in place or something like that. Cause like a lot of stuff we do have in place through the ESD, but could we meet about, it might be a couple of months, but Soren, let's you and I meet about it then. Okay.
Okay, so then we have first read policies. So it's a great time to ask questions, get clarifications, give direction before we come back for second reading. The first one is, I'm not going to do the lettering tonight. I'm going to do just the title. So suspected sexual conduct with students and reporting requirements.
These are all required policies that came out. One of the things I do want to point the board to is if you could go to page 2.
Mhm.
It is the third paragraph down. Now, in looking at this, I'm trying to think of sustainability in these policies as we move forward, past me and thinking about the smallness of our district. And one of the things I am going to recommend to the board, and this is the third one, and this is a conversation that I think we could talk about, we can think about, and then come back, is ultimately what it said was prior is if the superintendent is the alleged perpetrator, the report shall be submitted to a school administrator who shall report the suspected sexual conduct to the board chair. Thinking about how our district runs, we are a very small district, and the next school administrator besides the superintendent is usually a vice principal. And a vice principal is somebody who does not have a lot of experience and may have a little intimidation. And so my recommendation, and I've spoken to Jason Hayes, who's the Lynn Benton Lincoln ESC superintendent, is to be able to, instead of reporting to, let's say, the vice principal, because if you think about it, the HR director is the superintendent. I'm the HR director. I'm the special education director. I'm the curriculum director. And in bigger districts, when you have that, there's a lot of times those positions are very experienced and understand the law. A business manager, I mean, if you think about our past 2 business managers, our one business manager prior to Mr. Staley was actually contracted through the ESD. And Mr. Staley is a contracted a contractor. So my suggestion is to say submitted to the Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD superintendent who shall report the suspected sexual conduct to the board chair. The second reason why I would do that is not only would that person know the expectations and the laws, is that if you were to put a superintendent on leave, you by law have to have a superintendent of record, which my suggestion or often would actually be this ESD superintendent, who in the previous time in which, and I was not here, but when we had this issue, I know that this board worked very closely with Tanya Everett, who was the ESD superintendent at the time, who would come in and helped with that. The other thought process is shall be submitted to the district's legal counsel. The problem with that is it's actually easier to find who the Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD is than it would be to the district legal counsel. So I'm suggesting the Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD superintendent for that particular piece.
Now an appropriate time for questions?
Oh, yes, go for it.
Please.
Okay, so on that same page, the paragraph above where
Mhm.
there is a strike through of contractor, agent, or volunteer.
Mhm.
I'm noticing that that is the only paragraph that is struck out, and there are other areas.
Oh, I
that
see it down there.
reference
Yeah.
Contractor, there's lots of paragraphs that, why are we taking that out?
Well, number one, I didn't read it all, but because I thought it was. But if you look at 6, it said the following language in brackets is optional language for the district to consider, including if the language is kept, the district must make the groups aware of the policy and its administrative regulations and responsibility under both. It may also include in contracts with agents and contractors. We could keep it. I struck it out, but you could, if you were like, no, we want it, I could take it out.
Okay, I think that any person that sees something on
Okay.
our school campus should have an obligation
Okay.
to report.
Okay.
Period.
Okay. I will take that. I will put it for the second read. I will do that then.
I have a question on the last paragraph. The
Okay.
very end. It just says text, are you there?
Okay.
Texting or electronically communicating with student through
Yes.
contact information gained as a contractor, agent, or volunteer. For the district is.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that
No,
part.
it's okay,
Mhm.
but I had a different question in
Yes.
that space. Why don't, well, okay, maybe I don't have a question. I'm just wondering, like, should staff be there also? Should it
We
say
already
staff
have,
on-
we already have a
Okay.
staff policy that says it is strongly discouraged. So under, if you look under the staff policy, it's personal and social media communications. I don't remember exactly which one it is, but we do have a staff policy that says that.
The only thing that would make that hard is the things like remind or, all that, because it doesn't separate. So that's where I was like, well, I don't know if I want to ask that question.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. And then
So. let me
I
see
guess
where
from the board's perspective, strongly is
I think the
strongly.
language should match
discourage-
the other.
Yeah,
Well,
I can think of instances where a student and a contractor might need to communicate briefly. Like maybe
Maybe
they say to,
leadership class if they're
yeah,
saying.
or the kids like, can I work at your company, get a job? And they're like, let me contact you back with information on how to do that.
Maybe
Like,
do
I
a
don't want to
transition.
prohibit
Yeah.
that.
So, okay, so
Good,
policy
good.
GCAB, which is personal electronic devices and social media staff. It does say communication with students using personal electronic devices regarding non-school related matters is prohibited during work hours and strongly discouraged at other times.
So I think the language should match.
I would do strongly discouraged because if you prohibit it, I mean, anytime somebody, it could be, the hard part is in a district in ours, we may have a contractor or a volunteer who has a student. And if, if they just know each other on a personal level, it doesn't matter if they're a volunteer. It just says it's, prohibited. So I would do strongly discouraged. Sorry, I didn't see that.
No, it's fine. Russ, anything from your perspective on that one?
Mm-mm.
My other question is, why are 7A and 7C basically the same?
Where are you at?
backwards?
Ah.
I'm not in that document. I'm back in our agenda. Item 7A is GBNAA/JHFF G1. And then 7C is JHFF/GBNAA G1.
So
It's like flipped.
so the G falls under personnel, the J falls under students. So you're saying they're going to be found in
Okay,
both
so
places.
Then that
Same
language,
policy,
that
two different
strikeout-
places?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
makes
strikeout
sense.
is almost in the exact same
Yeah, it's
paragraph.
exactly the same.
And
So
the
I will go
strongly-
fix,
yeah,
I will
okay.
go fix them then.
Okay,
Thank you for pointing that out.
I'm like,
Since we're on that one, do we want to do, is there anything else we need to go through on the secondary one?
It's the
Anybody have
same.
any-
I didn't have anything on B.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do, let me make sure I put this on record and Laura can help me. So on both of them, I'm going to take out on page 2 of 3, any district employee, contractor, agent, or volunteer, we're gonna keep that, the strikeout's gonna go away. We're gonna keep the Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD superintendent. And then, on the last page, we're gonna put strongly discouraged. Okay, Laura, you got that? And we'll do work on that this week, so we don't forget. Okay.
Thank you. GCAA, Standards for Competent and Ethical Performance of Oregon Educators.
So what I'm gonna tell you is this is actually law. I just think it would be nice to put it in because if there are issues with any sort of administrator or a teacher, you have to follow this under TSBC. So I just put it out there so it'd be in our policies.
Questions? Do you like that you updated calendar year to 90 days?
Yeah, so that actually came through the legislature. So yep, that's 1 calendar year.
Don't have any second. Okay, that's everything for first reading policies.
Yep.
All right. Nothing for second reading. Any board comments this evening? All right. Future agenda items. I have written down one that's for April for the resolution for bond dollars to the alarm system project.
And the approval of the budget committee applications.
Any other suggested items?
Do we want to add discussion and follow-up to Russ's concern?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I am going to tell you all very carefully is that we have to be careful in conversations of ethics violations happening in open meetings. But we can talk with our OSBA to talk about how we can do that in a way that is that
Public facing?
Yep.
I started the email during our break actually. So I'm happy to start that process and then I'm happy to put it through Laura to send out to the board on what the recommendation would be, if that works for everybody. And then, yes, if that is the recommendation on how we follow that and then stay within bounds, then I would say, I mean, there sounds like there is an agenda item for how to discuss that. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Is the school board meeting on the 7th or the 8th? It's on the 8th.
Oh, that
Yeah.
Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I had it on the 7th on my calendar. I just need to update it.
I had to update, some of mine didn't update like I didn't like put the timeline far enough out when I moved mine back from Thursday, but
No worries. Got it now.
sorry guys, I was trying to get this document before I. Any other agenda items? What? Scholastic, okay, so just key dates for a future. Scholastic Book Fairs, March 12th through 20th. Literacy on the Farm, I'm gonna sign up for that. That sounds super cool. March 18th.
We are looking for volunteers if anybody is willing.
From 5 to 7:30. Executive session, March 17th. So this Monday coming up is an executive session at 7 p.m. Please do your self-evaluation of the superintendent. Vince will be here on site to work with us during that executive session. Grading day, March 21st. Spring break, March 24th through the 28th. Have a wonderful spring break, everybody. Strategic planning, April 1st at 4:15. Parent-teacher conferences, April 2nd through the 3rd. Early releases on the 3rd of April. And then we'll have a regular board meeting on the 8th. And we'll have a Red Cross blood drive on the 9th. So sign up for that if you can.
one addition, March 19th, 6 PM, sports night.
Thank you,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, that just, yep.
March 19th, what time, 6 PM, did you
6
say
to
that?
I think it's 6.
6 to 8, well, 6 to
6
to
PM.
conclusion.
6 PM.
All right, with that, we are complete this evening at 8:24 PM. Have a lovely evening.
We all supposed to be at that